Hi everyone, it's Sally Rosher again from Measuring Minds. I'm a licensed school psychologist and provide private psychoeducational evaluations. I am continuing on from my last video that was describing in very broad terms what is autism. And I wanted to encompass in this video also one of my book reviews. So as I've spoken in previous videos, that school psychology is not only a career, but it is also a hobby of mine. So I find myself in my spare time reading all the books and watching all the Netflix shows and watching Love on the Spectrum, and I'm really just fascinated by human behavior, and I wanted to review this book. I found this especially impactful because it was written by an individual with autism, and I believe that they've actually made this into a Netflix series. I have not watched that yet, but I am really excited to watch it. So I wanted to provide a couple of the questions that are posed in this book, and I wanted to discuss kind of which domain it falls under. For example, the format of the book is a Q&A. So it asks some of the commonly asked questions that this individual has received throughout the years of his life with autism, and then he gives a page or two response, and I liked that format, and I found it very informative, especially as a practitioner, because sometimes we get too caught up in the labels and we forget that, okay, this is a person, and of course with family and feelings and thoughts and strengths, along with possibly atypical behavior as well. So one of the questions that is posed in the book is, why do people with autism talk so loudly and weirdly? So that would fall really under both the communication differences and the social differences. So as we spoke about in the last video, the communication differences in individuals with autism can range from being completely nonverbal to having atypical communication. And sometimes that can present itself as atypical prosody. So that can include the person having an odd cadence or rhythm to their communication style, or having a sing-song kind of quality. And so that's what it's asking. Why do people with autism talk so loudly and weirdly? And I also feel that falls under the social differences, because the individual may not be picking up on the social cues that, okay, you're talking a little too loud, like we're in a library. So again, the social and communication differences, they're really can be combined into one domain. Another one of the questions that he asks is, why do you echo questions back at the asker? So this falls under, again, communication differences, and this is known as echolalia. So there can be immediate echolalia or delayed echolalia, and what that is, that's just a fancy technical term that practitioners use, meaning that the child is repeating what they've either recently heard, like just heard. A perfect example is sometimes if you ask a child, what's your name? Then they may just repeat that same question, what's your name? So that's echolalia. That would be immediate echolalia. And some other types would be the delayed. So then that would be children who may watch the same TV episode over and over and over, or the same movie over and over and over, which gets into that repetitive behavior, but then later they're echoing or repeating phrases from those shows or movies. So then that gets into the communication deficits. So then another one of the questions asks, why don't you make eye contact when you're talking? So again, this is getting into this social communication. Another term for it that you may hear speech language pathologists use is pragmatics. So that is the social component of communication. And so this again is encompassing the social interaction differences and then also the communication differences, because we typically, when we're communicating with someone, we provide eye contact to show our interest, to show that we're listening. These are just some of those nonverbal body language cues that we use to further facilitate communication with someone else. So many times some of the first signs that parents will notice is that their young toddler or preschool age child avoids eye contact with them. They may not respond to their name. They may not look up and make eye contact when their name is called. Another question is, do you prefer to be on your own? So that falls along the lines under the social differences. And so this, again, as I stated in the previous video, this really encompasses a wide range of behaviors, including limited to no interest in social interactions, up to just a difficulty understanding, basic social cues and social rules that aren't typically taught explicitly and directly, but whereas an individual on the autism spectrum may need just some of those supports and visual cues in order to improve these areas. Another aspect or another question that they pose in this book are, why are your facial expressions so limited? So this is another component of the social and communication differences, is that sometimes individuals with autism, we use the term flat affect, or just difficulty using nonverbal language to communicate how they're feeling. So this may be they may have again what we call a flat affect, so like limited facial expressions, or even facial expressions or emotional responses that aren't really appropriate for the situation. So that can present itself as a child laughing hysterically when there's not really anything going on. So that would be an example of that. Another question in here, is it true that you hate being touched? So this would kind of get into the repetitive behavior, the sensory sensitivity, just not liking a lot of touch. So some individuals may not want the close touch at all, and then whereas some other individuals may like firm touching or even like brushing, that may have a calming effect. And then it also kind of gets into the social differences as well. So as you can see, all of this, all of the domains are very much overlapping. Let's see. And then a lot of the questions also ask about even just personal things. For example, what is the worst thing about having autism? Or would you like to be quote unquote normal? And why do you write letters in the air? Why do people with autism often cup their ears? Is it when there's a lot of noise? Why do you move your arms and legs about in that awkward way? Why do you do things the rest of us don't? Do your senses work differently? Why are you too sensitive or insensitive to pain? Why are you so picky about what you eat? Anyway, this is a fascinating book. If you want to hear a first-hand account of an individual with autism. If you are concerned that your child may be on the autism spectrum, please give us a call. We do free consultations and we do comprehensive autism evaluations for children as young as 2, all the way up through adulthood. So that is another great thing about having more awareness, is that we're getting clients who have always suspected maybe that they've been on the autism spectrum and just never were formally tested. So there is no specific looking person. We assess all ages of all demographics. So please give us a call if you have concerns.